have, I think, the perfect triangle going on right now for everybody. So very nice. And so Liz, before we kind of get started on the Automatizer and everything like that, it was part of our brand new launch on the 31st of March for version 3. And I really believe it was probably the biggest launch
Oh,
Pipeliner has ever had.
definitely.
Yeah, what I mean, just for and everybody on the call, you automatically been upgraded to it, so you have it today. But Liz, what do you think are like the top, I don't know, 3 or 4 things that were part of that 3.0 launch?
So, I mean, the big ticket item, definitely Automatizer, which we're going to do today, but also something that a lot of people have been asking us for is the order. Now you get to open up any record for enterprise customers, which most people are, and you'll be able to track all of the changes made to an individual record and export it. You've got it from the admin function, you've got it from the desktop. Brilliant. And then I'd have to say, just because, of course, we use it all the time, we know what it's like to be our own customers. And I have to say there are a couple of usability enhancements that really I love. And one of those is when you send an email using the send email from inside of Pipeliner, you don't have to remember or copy and paste in the email addresses anymore. It's going to go looking up the email addresses that are kept in Pipeliner. Just a tiny little thing really, but a massive time saver. And the other one actually is about the merge, because I don't know about all of you guys, but very often I open up an account record and go to the contacts tab, and then I notice that there are duplicate contacts right there, and it used to drive me mad having to exit out and go to contacts to merge them, like, oh. And now you just don't have to do it. And that sort of feature, along with the vast majority of the things that we do, that's all about feedback from you guys, our customers, who, like ourselves, was like, why can't I merge just straight from contacts within an account? And of course, now you do. And, there's more stuff, but I would pick out those as my particular favorites.
Nice. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And I think the biggest one is the Automatizer. So,
Oh, yeah.
and yes, we know you love the name just like we do. You'll never forget it. And that's why John does such a great job here, because a true marketing person, you never forget the message. So there you go. And so, yeah, we're going to focus all of our time right now on the Automatizer. I thought we'd make it very interactive. That's okay with you, Liz, today. I thought what we could do is kind of maybe just give an overview of it, kind of what does it look like? What are some of the high level things we can do? And then maybe dive into maybe just a few use cases. Maybe we'll even do a fancy one if that's okay along the way there. Like in big picture, if you were describing, Liz, someone like what is the Automatizer, how would you, like, in just a high level, how would you describe it to somebody?
So, I mean, I would absolutely describe it as point and click.
Okay.
So easy. Automation tool. Yeah. And people can get sort of very like, oof, when you talk about something like that. They can think that, oh, it's something really difficult. You have to know business process markup language, and all. Of course, it's not like that from Pipeliner. We just don't work that way.
Right.
So what it allows you to do is just think through those routine, automated processes and repetitive tasks that you have in your system that your users are having to do themselves right now.
Okay.
And look to use the tool to streamline those processes for them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. In fact, I was on a customer call yesterday and we were kind of going through it, and it was about just really allowing, and I think this is probably one of the best parts. I know you're going to get to it, but enabling a customer to actually turn the business processes automation on for like everyone, the whole space, or allowing each individual salesperson to create their own process.
Yeah.
And I think that's magnificent. I mean, nobody else is doing anything like that in the market. So that's really cutting edge. And I think that's something that we just can't forget about. So, okay, cool. And let's not forget, if you have a question as we're going through it here, please feel free to either, maybe the easiest way is to post the question, and John will either reply back directly if he knows the answer or has a link to you, or at the end we'll go ahead and we'll go through all the questions, and we'll even let you turn on your camera if you want to show your home office. Just kidding. But all right, Liz, I stopped sharing. I'll let you share and introduce everybody to the new Automatizer.
Perfect. Okay, so who gets it? First thing.
Yeah, who gets it?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Everybody gets it. Okay. And in fact, we've switched it on for everybody. Yeah. So that you can all try it and work out value to you over a 21-day sort of free trial period. Okay. So everything that we look at today, you can look at, you can try out for yourself. And I know that some of you have already been trying out processes, because I've been, chatting to some of you on our chat, remember the chat here, as well as, via support, if there are any technical problems. And we'll talk about all of the resources and how you get more help as we go through today. Okay, so where is it? Yeah, well, those of you who've been long-term users of Pipeline are going to notice that for the first time in years, we've added a complete new menu item here. That's a big deal for us. We've had the same menu for quite some time. Now we've got a new one. And here's Automatizer here. Okay. And then email templates have moved so that they're under the template manager. And obviously when you click on it, it's going to open up the Automatizer window. Yeah, which I've got here. Okay.
Hey, Liz. Oh, there it goes. Okay, we took a second. There's a little delay. It looks perfect.
Tiny. Oh, yeah. As with everyone, there's a lot of bandwidth being used at the moment from home. So yeah, sorry if there is a delay here. Okay, so who can use it? Everybody. Yeah. Does that mean that you're going to want like all of your users to just go, "Ooh, cool," and start doing all of this stuff? Not necessarily. Right? So as administrators, you get to choose which of your users have access to Automatizer to start with. Okay, it's user role based. You do it from the admin module, just like you would everything else. Yes, if I just open it up and you go to your users tab, and then you're going to choose from each of the roles that you've got on the roles tab. Yes, if we go to standard user, for example, and here it is on the features, and you're going to say, do they have access to it, full stop? And then, as Todd mentioned, we give the ability to individual users to set up their own individual processes. Our guys in the office have been absolutely loving this. Joe, who some of you will know, is just getting so into setting up processes just to streamline his own life, and that's part of it. And then you get like the sort of the big fancy stuff where it's, all really considered and thought through and might have multiple different, steps involved in it. And that would be, a space process where any user at all using Pipeliner can start it off, depending on what they're doing. And, so you get to choose. Does
Liz,
anyone
just to make sure. So as an administrator, you can choose which users can either do it for everybody, or you can turn on like some people can create their own processes and some can't.
Absolutely.
Ah, that's
absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, that's
and
great.
Of course, some users just don't get a play because they don't need to. Yeah?
Right. Okay.
Completely down to you. As with everything in Pipeline, you've got that control. Okay, because you might want to. Okay, so we've got a number of simple processes already set up for you. Okay, and I'm going to just talk you through those here because you've got access to these already. Yeah, just to sort of give you a framework for how it all works. And then I'm going to talk to you about how would you start thinking about perhaps some more complex scenarios that you might want to use. Okay, because it's all about the thought process, because as with everything in Pipeliner, executing it is simplicity itself, it really is, but it's all about the thought process and the planning, just as in everything. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. for example.
Ooh, I like this one a lot. I think everyone should do this one.
Everyone should do something like this one. You are
Right?
absolutely right, in this sort of scenario. So what is this one all about? Yeah, well, it tells you essentially it's a welcome email for a new lead. And we're using the description here, and you can see it over here on this panel, so that you can just look at it and yeah, what it is and what it does. It's a space process. So just thinking about what we've just seen, what does that mean? It means that anybody creating a new lead is going to trigger this process. Okay, not just Joe or not just Todd or not just Liz. Yeah, everybody, it's going to apply to all users. So by Jack, that's important because we've got all sorts of notifications that tell you about processes. Yeah, so it tells you, is it running successfully? Was there a problem with it? And so all of those notifications are going to go through to Jack for his processes, those that he owns. Okay, and we get some summary information about all that here, but let's just jump straight into editing it, just so I can introduce you to some of the key terminology. Yeah, because there are words that describe things, and the first of those is what starts the process. Yeah, what's the trigger that sets it going? And you've got choices, all the main types of record, in fact. Yeah, and this one's based on lead. So what we're saying is this process is about leads. Okay, and then we're saying, well, what is it about leads that is going to set this process off? And it's when a new lead is added into Pipeliner. So when a record is created, as opposed to changes, yeah, or both, or deletions. Again, come back and have a look. And then we're going to say, well, who's kicking this off? Yeah, who's doing the creating of the lead that is going to start this process running? And we're going to select here from any user. But, and this is really cool, yeah, just notice down here, obviously we've got the process owner for those personal processes. But down here, we can choose individual users by name, multiples of, or sales units, yeah, groupings of users, teams, departments, territories, however you set those up in your own system. You get to say just users belonging to a particular sales unit, for example, are the ones who will kick this one off. Yeah, so again, pretty much as flexible as we can make it on this first pass, because remember, this is the first go at it. And as we always do at Pipeliner, we're going to give you something that's fully formed and beautiful as a starting point. And then over time, once you're used to how that works, we give you more beautiful stuff, yeah, more enhanced stuff. And Todd's going to be talking to you about that as we go through. Okay, so what are we talking about here? We're talking about anybody creating a lead. What's going to happen? Okay, well, we can set up what are called conditions. And conditions define the criteria that your lead has got to meet, essentially, in order to be considered for the action, the welcome email to be sent. And in actual fact, because this is the sort of process where we want it to happen in every single case. So, what we're thinking about in our head is, do we want this email to go to every single new lead, regardless? Yes, we do. Okay, and that means that we don't want any conditions to have to be met. So we're going to have the ignore option there, which basically says any new lead, nothing particular about that lead, move straight on to sending a nice email. Okay, and that's the action here. These ones are nice, simple ones. Yeah, but the pluses, we all know what pluses mean in Pipeliner, adding a new thing. So this is your cue, your hint that you can build complicated situations here, yeah, by adding additional conditions, by adding additional actions. So this one's an email. And of course, this is the sort of thing that a lot of you are going to be doing a lot of, yeah, because it's exactly what you want to happen. When something happens, send somebody an email, the customer an email, the accounts team an email, the sales manager an email. So many different scenarios, which is why we set this one up as an example. So we want to send a welcome email, and then we say, well, what do we want that to look like? And so we go to compose email. and we can write it straight in here, including personalization. And we can also use templates that we've already got set up in the system. Yeah, so not only can we drive the process that says that consistently in all situations, all of our new leads get a lovely welcome email. Good thing. Yeah, nobody has to remember to do it. We know that they've got it. We can also say, we know exactly what that email is going to look like. We know exactly the content of it. We know all the click-throughs. You know, we know exactly the wording that's used. We've got that consistency. So nobody has to remember to do it, and it's completely consistent. And, you know, almost in a nutshell, that's what this is all about.
This is great, Liz. And does the email have to be sent like right away, like right when the new lead's created? Because I saw something about scheduling. What does that mean over on like dynamic dates? What's all that about?
So over here, thank you, Todd,
Yeah.
you get to choose. Yeah, when does it happen? Because sometimes you don't want it to happen immediately. Maybe you want something else to happen first, or maybe you want, you know, a day to go by. And so, you know, if you start to imagine that you're setting up drip emails, for example, yeah, then that's exactly where these scheduling options come in. So you can send your welcome email immediately, for example, and then you could add another follow-up that goes the following day or in 2 days' time by choosing one of these options here. Yeah, so dynamic dates, hopefully you're familiar with dynamic dates and filtering, because all of the same skill sets apply. Yeah, so using dynamic dates, you get to say how many things, you know, 2 days later, for example. Yeah, and then you would create another email. Yeah, I'm just going to undo the changes on that. So that ability to sort of push things into the future again allows you to set up just not just the, hey, we're glad you're a new lead in our system, but, you know, a couple of days after that, oh, hello lead, now we'd like to send you our Automatizer article. Or, you know, any other resources, white papers, you know, you can get that sort of that whole drip campaign type element set up. And of course, these are emails that go out of Pipeliner. So when you go and you're looking at the email, you'll be able to see the tracking, you know, all of those things still apply. It's not some weird and freaky thing that just sits inside the system. Okay, so that's one. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then we've
Luke,
got
sorry, Liz, Luke has a question here. If he says, can you change the email address a trigger should send to based on certain criteria? Example, if sales unit A creates an opportunity, send email template to person A. If sales unit B creates an opportunity, send to person B. If sales C, send to person A and person B and person C.
Yes, you can, Luke, but you'd be setting up multiple conditions for that. Yeah. So the condition would be, so if I just open this one up just to give you a quick clue there. So rather than ignoring the condition and then having the action try to deal with it, yeah, the condition is where you set out your filters. So you'd be basically saying in here, you know, my condition is that this thing is created by sales unit A, in which case your action would be send this email to person A. Yeah, and then you'd have another condition here that said, but this one's created by sales unit B, so be sending my email to person B. Yeah, and then essentially you've then got your else. If you think of these as an if then else type situation, then you'd have, you know, either or, send to whoever. Okay, so that leads me really nicely into how do you start to think about all of these things. Yeah, and that's why I've kept Pipeliner itself open here. Yeah, so before you even sort of start to think about going into the automatizer and building your process, you have to think, well, how am I going to know exactly what happens when, what my conditions are going to be? And essentially what that means is that you've got to be able to filter it. You need to know how to filter it, because conditions essentially are filters. So if you can't filter it, then you can't expect Automatizer to be able to act on those same conditions. Yeah. So hopefully all of you know about filtering in Pipeliner. If not, there's loads of resources available for you. But, if we're thinking about creating a process based on opportunities, then it would pay definitely to be thinking, well, how am I going to pick out just those opportunities that I want this process to run on? And you'd be thinking literally, what sort of filter criteria am I going to use? And, can I get those filter criteria into Pipeliner? Do I have the information that I need on the record to be able to set up my conditions in Automatizer? And of course, if you don't, nobody needs to be disappointed or desolate about it, because, then you start to think about, well, how can I adapt my Pipeliner system so that going forward, I have the information that I need? Yeah, so give you an example of that. In our live system, when all of our sales guys are working on projects with you, and they then move projects into the one phase, yeah, this is just demo system that I'm using today, some of those need to come into my pipeline in our live system, into the onboarding pipeline, yeah, but not all of them, because people just buy extra licenses and all sorts of things. Yeah, so it's only those that have bought a project need to have an opportunity created in the onboarding pipeline. Okay, so I'm thinking, well, that's going to be really cool to automate, because then nobody needs to remember to do it. And it's going to be done consistently each time. The criteria for a process, essentially. Yeah, but then I'm thinking, well, all of those opportunities being won, we only need it to be triggered by certain types, those that have a project, essentially. So what I'm going to do in our live system is I'm going to add a field to our, our opportunities, and it's going to be required when any opportunity is won in the direct sales process pipeline, rather. And our guys are just going to say, yes, it's a project, or no, it's not a project. Simple yes, no field is all that I need to add. And that's going to be my criteria for triggering a whole process that starts with copying the opportunity into the onboarding pipeline and then emailing the customer, all sorts of lovely things.
Wow.
Yeah?
Wow, that's intense.
But in order to do it, I've got to have the value that
Right.
lets me start it off. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hey, Liz, can you do me a favor? Can you go back into the Automatizer and take a look at those 5 items that we've included for everybody? And so everybody knows these 5 are in your system. So not only do we give you the 21-day kind of free trial period of the application, but also these 5 ones that I think are really great, because you can like copy one of them, right, Liz? Like copy it and then kind of interpret it for your own needs. So that's an easy way, I think, to get started.
Absolutely.
Is there another one that maybe is a little different than the email? Maybe more like I don't know.
I like this one.
A task. Oh, that's a cool one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because again, this one does exactly what it says on the tin. Yeah.
Okay.
So when any lead is created, what do we want? We want someone to follow up. So again, but this one, not send an email. This one's creating a task. Yeah. So we have a look at this one. We want the task to be scheduled. We want to create a related record this time rather than send an email. So just like, yeah, again, none of this is weird stuff. Okay. What would we be doing if we were doing this ourselves in Pipeliner? We'd be going to a lead. We'd be creating a task that's related to this opportunity. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. In Automatizer, creating a related record. What's that record? It's a task. Yeah. So it's everything that you all know already. It's just about you not having to do it now. The system's going to do it for you.
Yeah, but there's no like coding here. There's no
coding.
There's no like
none at all.
Expressions and
nope.
and like diagramming out the whole. This is all just point and click.
Point.
I mean,
and
I think a everyday normal salesperson that's using Pipeliner,
they do.
probably could
Joe's
just
done
get
it.
in and do their own process.
Yeah,
When
and
Joe
Joe,
did
I
it.
think, would describe himself as an ordinary everyday salesperson,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And
that's great to
literally the
learn.
first thing he was diving in, he's like, oh, this is going to save me hours, you know?
He likes to calculate out how much time it
he
saved him
does.
too, which was
Yeah,
actually an interesting exercise in the return of it, right? Because you think, okay, well, we're gonna do one system and maybe, like John runs our marketing team, right? And so he's got that inside group of salespeople, right, that are out there, calling customers and then emailing them and then scheduling a follow-up task, but that may take 5 minutes a lead, right?
yeah.
Then you count up, 300 leads a day, times the whole week, times a group of 10. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, I just saved like my team man hours, so many. And so I
Yeah.
think the return, it sounds like silly, like these time adding up, but the way to do these customizations and save that time, this is fantastic.
I honestly cannot think of a single business that is not going to be able to do exactly that, Todd.
Yeah,
saving man hours of work,
Wow, that's great.
Hey, Liz, there's a quick question here from Gary Perkins. Hey, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
He wants to know, does the form enable you to add text to the task? Example,
Yeah,
like
it does.
case lead.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So let's just go through what we're doing here, because this is a really great example again of the power of it. So we're scheduling a call because we want somebody to pick up the phone. Yeah, we've got our text in here, so we're typing in, we want the subject line to read call to primary contact, but this is where it gets really cool. This is personalization. Yeah, for all of you who've been using our email templates, let's face it, who wouldn't be using our email templates, because they're fantastic. But again, same skills. Yeah, so this is personalization. So you've seen these in email templates. Now you get to use them in the Automatizer. So what are we going to end up with at the end of this? We're going to end up with call to primary contact Todd Martin, where Todd is the primary for the lead that you're talking about. Yeah, we've got one here. Test data. Yeah, Miguel. So if we were talking about this process running on this lead, it would say call to primary contact Miguel when it's Miguel, and Todd when it's Todd, and John when it's John, because it's going to suck that information from the record and put it into the call. Yeah, and then the description, it's going to give you their phone number and everything else that you like. And here we go on the scheduling. Yeah, so when are we going to do it? Well, we get to click, we get to choose from our date options here. Yeah, and this one, we've chosen current date, and then you click, and in your options, you get to say, oh, but I really want my lovely dynamic dates to operate here. And here's where you get the 3 dates in the future.
Wow.
So
this is unbelievable. Gary, I know you're going to like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, again, just some fantastic options on, who's going to own the call. Well, is it the person triggering the process? Is it the person who owns the lead? Is it Liz? Because Liz does this. Yeah, all of the options. Our guys have done an amazing job on, writing this for all of our customers to be able to use, just based on being able to use Pipeliner every day. And that's where it gets really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And Liz, just remind everybody, Richard was just asking, where does he find access to the Automatizer for his 21 days?
Oh, it's here in the tools menu.
So everybody who's either on as a current customer or a trial, if you're watching the recorded version, you'll have this activated for you. Okay, so we did that. And we also included those 5 examples. We did it for everyone, right, Liz? The 5 examples?
Did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
And if by some weird, freaky reason, you've slipped through the net there, just let us know and we can switch it on for your 21-day trial for you. But it's on by default for everybody.
Perfect. And does that mean it's on just for the administrator or for all users?
It's on for personal processes for all users by default.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay, great.
So just be aware of that. If you are an admin who wants to lock it down, and there will be some out there, be aware of that. And obviously that's in the admin module here.
the roles. Okay, great. Now you've been going, I know we've been trying to go kind of slow and going through it step by step. But if we were to look at like, if you were to kind of think ahead here, Luke called in earlier and had a question, right? Like at MacTech. Hi, Luke. He'll probably want to do a really advanced one, right? Can you kind of like think ahead, like where do you think you see like a very advanced process going through, and what would it kind of look like in your mind, or what do you think some of those more, really deep, advanced, really thought out processes may look like, other than these 5 kind of base ones?
So I think that the real life processes that everybody's going to go for are going to generally use conditions, possibly even multiple conditions, sort of thing.
Okay.
Just chatting about for Luke there, and definitely several different actions. Okay, and I'm going to put one together for you guys just really quickly, just so you can see. Yeah, I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on it, but I'm going to put just a quick one together just so you can have a look. Yeah, so this one's going to be based on one that Luke and I were chatting about on email. Yeah, so it's going to be opportunity. It's going to be over 10 grand. Yeah. Okay, that's basically what it is. Now, normally I absolutely would type a really detailed description here because I don't want to have to be going into it, looking at it to see what it does. But obviously, this is going to be for speed. Remember, choosing the personal, just me or everybody, this would be a space process. Okay, so what's my trigger here? My trigger is going to be opportunity. And it's not going to be a new opportunity for this one. It's actually going to be, an update to an existing opportunity, and any user is going to be able to do it. And then because it's an update to an existing record, I get this additional option which says, any change at all or specific changes, basically. Yeah, and I want specific changes here. So I want it to move sales step. Yeah, that's what I want to happen. So what's my condition? Something like this. That's in proposal. Okay. So that's value. Yeah. What says it's large? Well, the opportunity value tells me that it's large in this particular example. And then, of course, well, what does large mean to me? Well, let's say that it's above 10,000. Okay. And then, of course, we can start adding. And everyone who's ever seen a filter in Pipeliner, this is basically the custom screen in filters. Yeah, nothing more than that.
Nothing more than learn.
Nothing more than that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I could say, well, it doesn't just have to be big. It has to be in, what shall we say? Proposal, I think I've got. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So it's got to be in the proposal sales step, for example, and it's got to be more than 10 grand. That'll do, as a nice start. Okay. And so I can save that. And of course I can add another one. Yeah. So this one, for example, which has different things happening to it. And again, I'm not going to labor the point too much here. But for this one, if I have one set of things happening to the big deals, we want a different set of things happening to the small deals. And this is where those multiple conditions come in. Okay, so going back to this one, what do I want to happen? Maybe I want, email the sales manager. Maybe they need to approve something. Whoops, if I could type. So here I'm going to say send an email. Yeah, and then compose the email. And I'm going to send it to John as a user. I can type it. Yeah, and in here, of course, I can use my personalization to suck all sorts of information in about the opportunity itself. So, and I can do this in template as well, of course. So let's just add opportunity name, and then, yep, it's just personalization, just looking for my fields in exactly the same way as I would just using Pipeliner exactly the same way I would set up an email template or type an email. I've got my mixture again, Gary, of personalization and text that I can type. I can make it as complicated as I need to or not, yeah, and then save. Okay, so then I can save my email, and here's where you start getting into real life, I think. Yeah, so then you're going to be saying, well, I'm going to have this send an email, then I'm going to have it create a task perhaps, and that would be my call. I can have, so this is cool, yeah. This is one that I did just the other day. I was thinking sort of in our own system. So I don't know about you guys, but obviously on accounts, it's very common to use customer type, account type, something like that to say, am I looking at a prospect? Am I looking at a customer? Okay. When you win an opportunity in an ideal world, your users are going to remember to go to the account that that opportunity is linked to and update it so that it's now a customer, not a prospect. Yeah. Okay. Nobody does that. Well, that's absolutely fine because it doesn't matter anymore because Automatizer going to do it for you. Because I can say, go and update my related account. And now I've got my account and I can say, I want you to be updating. Yeah, and I want to make an existing customer and, you know, all sorts of things I can add in, again, using the personalization. Okay, so you can imagine, you know, a whole process in here that's going to email the sales manager, send an email to the customer, schedule a task for the salesperson, go and update the associated records, even right back to update the opportunity itself. Yeah, but only do that series of actions for the large ones. And when it comes to small ones, do something different. Yeah, something simpler, perhaps. Okay, and that's where I see people getting to in real life. And you can do all of that right here, right now, today in the Automatizer. And Todd's going to tell you all about the fancy new stuff coming in the future.
Yeah. And hey, Liz, while you're showing your screen, can you do me a favor? Because sometimes, and you can close out of the screen, because we're going kind of quick and people are probably getting real excited, but where would somebody, you know, if they just want to like remember how to do that, how would they get help? How would they see like the documentation that you've done in order to help them do it? Where do they click? Where do they go for that?
So from inside of Pipeliner, hopefully everybody knows about the help icon. Yeah, if you go to knowledge base, if you're not inside the app, if you're just reading, you get to exactly the same place, help.pipelinersales.com. And then we've got in-depth articles. Every single thing that you need is here, including a use case that goes through quite a complex, well, you know, fairly complex process that I think lots of people will be able to relate to. It's got the whole video introduction to start with. So there's that whole watch it, read it, try it, use it.
Yeah, and I know I have some customers that are like, Todd, we'll send it to you. Can you all just do it for me? Is that, I don't know why, but is that an option that they can utilize your professional services team to kind of get these going? Is that an option for people? Okay.
It is an option, absolutely. It's a chargeable service, obviously, as all our professional services are. But yes, we can definitely help you with that.
Okay, great.
And we're putting together forms and things like that to help you with your definitions.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure. Is there a question, John, coming in?
Yeah, there's a bunch of questions actually. So do you want to take them now, or do you want to take them after you talk about what's coming?
Why don't we do now? And then we'll tease everybody to hang around to see the rest.
All right, Gerald Blum has a question. Can I trigger a whole process with incoming email, example, sales of product, enter a position in the pipeline and start adjacent tasks like send delivery note to printer in form distribution?
You're skipping ahead already on me. Come on. All right.
See, that's what I.
All right.
That's what I was.
We'll do the new stuff first. Okay.
Yeah, so I was saying, why do you do the new stuff first? Because I had a feeling some of this is
Oh
going to be
my
answered
goodness.
there, and then we'll come back to it.
I tell you, let me share my screen here just real quick then, because of course the first one says it. But let me go ahead and, okay, so this was just launched, as that we all know, on March 31st, okay, last week, okay? And as we all know, Pipeliner's development team is so great, and the velocity of that development is unbelievable, okay? Coming exactly 1 month later, I think it's on April 29th, okay, so just a few weeks, is version 2 of the Automatizer, okay? And with that, as Liz pointed out earlier, we want to be able to make it so it will go, let you kind of get used to it for a couple weeks, building a couple processes, but then be able to take it to that other level. So one of those other levels is, and this is a test system, but is the ability to actually use a webhook in your process. And so what I mean by that, remember we have the condition and then we had the action. Well, with that action, I think Liz actually said it like, hey, you know what, do things like create or update certain records. But with the new version, you actually have the ability, one additional item is added, is to actually send a webhook. Okay, if you're not familiar with webhooks, we're getting a little too technical, no worries. I'll let you read about it later, but our ability to kind of trigger things to happen in different applications outside of Pipeliner. Okay, now those request types, if you're techie, and I'll just spend a second on this, not to bore anyone on the techie side, but we have the get, the patch, the post, the delete request types, as well as the requesting formats in either JSON, XML, or text. Okay, so with complete authorization, this may be a little bit more than some people can handle, but when you go to those advanced levels, this is really that stage. And this is something maybe either Liz and her team will be able to help you implement, or through our network of global partners, they can add a lot of value and help you with this as well. Okay, so 2 ways to get help on these very, very advanced items. So that's one thing coming new on the 29th, which is very exciting because it's very technical. I think the other thing is about scheduling activities in the future for things to happen. A good use case of this was like, you know what, somebody had a group of independent reps that work at the company, and they like to send them leads, right, in Pipeliner even, okay? And so they wanted to be able to kind of schedule it out, and if nothing happened after a certain amount of time, instead of just having a bunch of leads sitting there, okay, it would just automatically time out, and they would auto archive, okay, that lead or even that opportunity. So those scheduled activities in the future, I think is really a big benefit on that. Am I interpreting it right, Liz? Is what the next phase of that? Okay, which is exciting. You don't really get to that level until you have a few in place. And I think the third main big thing I think coming is, and John, you'll appreciate this one, okay, because it's for the marketing team, is sometimes we want to send these emails out, either those approval emails or that first email to the lead, or part of that drip can be done. You don't always want it to maybe come from my individual person. And so we're going to start involving, you can put like info at or sales at, those type of generic emails can be incorporated into your process. And I think it's terrific when you can kind of incorporate, like, lead first goes out, you may get an email from sales at pipelinersales.com, but the third email 7 days later is from Todd at Pipeliner, because it's the personalization, plain text kind of a thing. And then you pop it out and you back and forth it even. So just a real nice way to incorporate those 3 main things. There's lots more, but I thought those are the 3 kind of main things. A little technical, a little bit involving different departments, and then also that kind of advanced scheduling and kind of looking in the future when you do a process where it can look in the future, then perform an action. So cool things there. So that's what I had on new stuff.
Excellent. And just another question, is it possible to automatically assign a task to a corresponding account or contact? In other words, linked?
Yeah.
What you would do,
Liz, you want to share your screen if you want to, I'll stop sharing there if you want to show how.
yes. Oh, 1 second. Let's try that again. There we go.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I was just looking at this, Marcus. So what you would do, I've got this here for you. It's creating a task, a related record. In your record form, what you would need to do here is you'd be adding a link as a linked item, the account. Yeah. By default, this task is going to link to a lead if your trigger is a lead, or an opportunity if it's an opportunity. But here you'd be able to also link it to the account. Okay, which makes perfect sense, of course, because if the trigger is a lead, then you're going to want a reference to that on the lead. But yeah, in here you could also link to the account that the lead is related to, or the opportunity that the lead is related to. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. All right, another quick question. Yeah, from another one from Luke. He says, any future development plans to incorporate this somehow into Pipeliner templates? For example, opportunity moves to invoice stage, export opportunity data to invoice Word document template, and send to internal finances@company.com.
It's not coming in 3.1, Luke, but it's with our development team right now. You're not the only customer to have asked for that. Technologically, it's quite difficult. Our guys are brilliant, as you know, though. So if anyone can do it, they can do it. But we don't have a firm timetable on that. So I'm just going to keep everyone who I know is interested in that functionality informed as it progresses.
Yeah, and in fairness, I didn't read the last bit where Luke said, I know it's tough.
Oh, Luke.
All right, that's it for our questions. I think we've answered everybody's questions, and I think we're up against the end of our time now. So any last comments, Liz or Todd?
Try it.
Yeah, try it. I will say this. Yeah, if you want to keep on trying, if you are interested, okay, please reach out to your account manager. They'll tell you how you can get started with the Automatizer, as well as with any professional services that you may need with it. So we'll sending some follow-up emails, kind of reminders. So if you want a one-on-one of it, again, your account manager will be able to help you out with that too. So.
Fantastic. Okay, and listen, Gary just said, fantastic. He loves it.
Good. Well, Gary likes it.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Be safe these days.
Yeah.
All right.
Be safe, everybody.
Yeah, and this will be available as a recording, so you'll be able to review it again. And to the people who couldn't join us today, so listen, thanks everybody for joining us. The Automatizer is awesome, as you can see, and love or hate the name, you're never going to forget it. Bye now.
Bye. Bye.